Thinking about planning a trip with grandparents, parents, and kids all together? You're not alone. Multi-gen travel is one of the fastest growing trends, with nearly half of travelers taking a trip with extended family in the past year. But let's be real. Coordinating different ages, interests, and energy levels can feel overwhelming. In this episode, I'm sharing 5 essential tips to simplify planning and make sure your next family getaway is smooth, stress-free, and full of unforgettable memories. If you want to start traveling more with your family, this podcast is for you. Welcome to Wonderwise, a family travel podcast. I'm Megan Whitley Medlin, a mama of 4 with a serious case of wanderlust. Traveling with kids presents many challenges, but with the right tools in your toolbox, you can create unforgettable memories. Whether you enjoy exploring U.S. national parks or international destinations, this podcast is your ultimate resource to inspire your travels and help you craft well-thought-out itineraries for your family's next big adventure. Get ready to plan smarter and wander wisely. Your next adventure starts now. Hey guys, welcome back to Wonderwise Family Travel Made Simple. I'm your host, Megan Medlin, and I am super excited to be back. My hubby and I took a small little break. We went down to Aruba for a few days over Valentine's Day and had a wonderful time beating the cold weather and soaking up some rays. And I came back and immediately got sick and lost my voice. And I've just now gotten back to where I sound almost like myself. So I apologize for the squeaks and little creaky voice that I've got going on. Today's topic is all about multi-generational travel or multi-gen travel. And I deal with this a lot as a travel advisor, mainly, I think, because it gets to be really difficult and really tricky when it comes down to planning a trip that involves more than your immediate family. Anytime you add on extra people, it just throws in so much more into the mix because now you have to worry about different personalities and different interests, different physical levels of mobility at times, different ideas of what a vacation really is for some people, and you want everybody to have a good time. So that's where I really shine as an advisor. I can help bring larger groups of families together so they can travel and have these great memories together, but take a lot of that stress of the planning out of the way. So I wanted to bring my top 5 tips to you guys so that hopefully that would help you if you are considering traveling with possibly grandparents or aunts and uncles, godparents, you name it. If you're traveling with anybody more than the people that live under your roof most of the time, it just gets a little bit harder. More and more families are choosing to do this. Over the last year or so, I have seen a lot of influx in options to travel with grandparents tagging along. And there's a lot of benefits to this. You know, we see our parents aging and we want to bring them along. Sometimes these are bucket list experiences that the parents haven't or the grandparents haven't enjoyed yet, and you want to bring them along with the kids. Or maybe your kids are a little bit smaller and having the grandparents along sounds like a really good idea for maybe some extra hands or a babysitter so that mom and dad can go out and have a dinner or something by themselves. Bringing grandparents along is top of mind for a lot of folks these days. Over 50% of people in a recent study were planning or had just been on a multi-gen family trip. So this is definitely a rising trend. Families are prioritizing experiences over material things, which I am a huge pro. This is a huge pro for me. I love gifting experiences versus actual gifts and items. So many families are leaning into this, and grandparents are sometimes, not all the time, are footing their bill because they want to now enjoy these experiences with their children and grandchildren. I love this so much. Anytime a family comes to me and they have this idea to bring everybody along, I just get so excited because I know they're going to create these lifelong memories and traditions and hopefully spark more multi-gen travel together. I'm not saying that this has to be every trip that you take, but gosh, it is so, so special to have mom, dad, grandparents, and kids all together on a trip. And speaking from experience, it's so funny to watch my parents with my kids because they are just spoiled rotten, and they let my kids get away with so much more than I got away with as a kid. Maybe that's the same for your family. And while this comes with so many benefits of traveling all together, there are definitely some challenges like different energy levels and interest. The kids, mom and dad, probably a little bit younger, and they're going to want to be able to, go out and explore, where grandparents may want to be in for an early dinner. They may have some mobility issues. They may not want to travel far from home. So all that goes into play as you're thinking about destinations. There may be some budget disparities. The grandparents in their retirement may have more to spend than perhaps a mom and dad with a family, a growing family. And then coordinating schedules for multiple people. This is probably one of the biggest and hardest components of planning multi-gen travel. The more people you have involved, especially if you're extending it out to aunts, uncles, cousins, the more difficult it gets to find that particular date. So we'll talk a little bit about that and how to get over that challenge too. With all those challenges aside, multi-gen travel is so worth it just to see everyone come together and have those memories to reflect back on. So I want to get into the 5 key tips that I have for simplifying the multi-gen travel and the planning that goes around with that, starting with choosing your accommodations wisely. And in different places, you have more options, such as if you're visiting a resort, then, mom and dad can have a certain room. And if grandparents want to splurge and get a different room, or if aunt and uncle are coming and they don't have any kids and they want to stay in the same resort, they can choose kind of to upgrade their room choice. As you're going, especially internationally, as far as like Central America, Europe poses its own challenges too, as the rooms are just smaller. But a lot of places will have villas or family suites that you can choose from, so that everybody could even be together in the same space. Maybe if you had a 3-bedroom villa that was more private and had its own connected areas, but then everybody could be close, but also have their own spaces. That works out really well. You'll want to probably consider a rental home or an Airbnb, or do you want to go with a property that has restaurants on site to make it easier for everyone? Think about bringing groceries in or shopping while you're there to have some meals cooked at home, or your home away from home, I should say. Is that something that you guys would enjoy, or do you want to do absolutely zero cooking, preparing, cleaning, in which case staying at a resort may be your best option? Focusing on the amenities that are available to all different ages will be a very important part of your planning. You'll want to know what kind of pools or kids club, or like I said, on-site dining, ease of dining, babysitting services, grocery shopping services. What type of fitness classes do they have? Does mom and dad or grandparents want to go to the casino? All these different places. What kind of amenities are going to be available for every person that's traveling together? And there may not be one perfect place for the whole group, but finding something that each person would appreciate can go a long way when you show up and you can say, I had this in mind for you. they have this really great spa on site, and I know you enjoy a spa, and they've also got a great kids club. This will all vary just depending on your styles and tastes, but keep in mind everyone as you are looking and planning. If you're choosing the option of staying in a villa or a rental home, you'll want to consider how you're going to balance group time, together time, connecting time with solo time. I don't want to be around these people time. There's just going to have to be some breakout time, even if you only see your family one time a year and this is it. Everybody needs that space to have some quiet time. So really being able to balance that is going to be pretty important. We don't have to spend every moment together. If mom and dad and the kids want to go off and do a more strenuous activity, and then grandparents can sit by the pool or go bird watching or, something that is their interest. Not every single activity has to be spent together. That is not the point of a multi-gen trip. The point of a multi-gen trip is to be able to share experiences, but it's also little mini vacations inside of one big vacation. A vacation for great-grandparents or grandparents, a vacation for mom and dad if the grandparents want to take the kids for a little bit, and a vacation for that typical family, mom, dad, kids. Giving each other some space will go a long way for overall morale for your trip. I know from experience when we have traveled with grandparents, it's really nice if there is a child who still naps that the grandparents, one or both, can go back with the younger child or children, and they can kind of rest and regroup too, and let mom and dad and maybe the older kids can go off and do something more exciting while the grandparents and the little children are resting. Super duper helpful to have those in-house babysitters, aka grandparents. When you're looking at places to stay and activities to do, you want to consider mobility and accessibility, knowing the limitations of each traveler, and ensuring that the activities, hotels, and transportation are suitable for your older travelers and the younger kids. Maybe looking for a walkable destination or one with easy transportation like shuttles, golf carts. If you need a wheelchair accessible area or just, generally a flat path to walk on. Asking the hotels, the resorts, they're going to be able to tell you how accessible they are for any mobility issues. And then, of course, any excursions that may be more strenuous, just making sure that everybody's educated and expectations are set so that grandma and grandpa don't arrive for waterfall rappelling and that's the first they've heard of it, and now they have to go down the side of a mountain on a rappel line. That would be a major surprise. So just check everybody's expectations, make sure everybody's aware of the plans, and get their feedback on, hey, are you up for this? No, really, are you up for this? Because I'm booking it. So that it's not such a surprise for anyone in your party as far as your activities are concerned. And one thing that's always a great idea, whether you're traveling with your parents, grandparents, or children, is just checking out local medical facilities just to see where they're located, what type of emergency care they have, just in case somebody needs something while you are away from home. Moving into simplifying meal times, you're going to eat at least 3 times a day, just like you would at home. And if you have people outside of your regular home life that are joining you for your vacation, you need to have diverse dining options to accommodate for picky eaters, possible dietary restrictions, different appetites. All that plays a role because you want everybody to enjoy their trip. You want everybody to have a good time. You need to make sure that there are options that everyone would enjoy. A lot of times people lean towards renting a villa that has some type of kitchen, whether that's a kitchenette or a full kitchen, so you can have those groceries delivered or go shop for your groceries and have those home-cooked meals at least a few times when dining out is just not ideal in the area you're in. And you can share the responsibilities there of cooking those normal meals that you'd have at home and have that in your kitchen in your vacation rental. Definitely make reservations in advance for larger groups. If you're going out to a popular restaurant, especially in high touristy areas, making those reservations, it's a whole lot easier to accommodate larger groups if you've got that reserved through OpenTable or the restaurant itself. Very important. It's just too tricky to show up and say, we have a group of 10. Can we be seated at 6 p.m., please? It's not going to work. The kids are going to be cranky. Grandparents are going to be ready to go to bed. And we don't want that. We want everybody to be happy. So as you can see, there are so many components to think about when you're planning, not just for your own family, but when you throw in additional people into the mix. So my very final tip would be to let an expert handle the details. I would be the expert. Planning for multiple ages and preferences is complex, but I deal with that almost every day. I am very good at putting people together in a property that would match their level for comfort, their level for space needs, their level of amenities that they would want, and really hearing that. And on our travel consultation that I provide, I make sure to have everybody that's a decision maker on that Zoom call, just so that I can hear preferences from each kind of grouping, as you would, that would have be a decision maker on that trip. Getting everybody together, if you do not have a travel advisor or a mediator to kind of run the conversation, things just go a little out of control and you wind up on tangents. And then by the time you are leaving and the conversation's over, you haven't really gotten anywhere. And I think that's what holds a lot of people back from making these trips with their extended family. So let me take care of that. We'll have our Zoom call and we can go over all of these details and just let me get a feel for what the group would really enjoy. And I can match you up with properties and activities and arrange all of your ground transportation so that you don't have to bother with that. Using a travel advisor is super helpful. I know everyone is capable of planning their own travel, but what we don't have is time. And so I find that when we rely on our own time to make these trips and make these plans, it either doesn't happen or it's severely delayed. So if you are considering a multi-gen trip, highly recommend working with a travel advisor that specializes in the destination that you would like to go to. I recently worked with clients who came to me and they wanted a certain destination. It was the grandparents, it was 2 siblings, and then their kids as well. They threw several different destinations out for me during our consultation call, and I helped them narrow down to one destination. We all had our calendars out, and they narrowed down to specific dates while we were on the call. And then through our conversation to figure out, what type of accommodations they would prefer, I was able to recommend properties that would fit into their particular style of travel. I love working with families to customize itineraries and activities for all the ages, that everyone is going to have something that's just for them that they're going to enjoy. And then, of course, I have your transportation arranged and your dining reservations taken care of, spa appointments, so that it's really easy and it takes the stress way, way out. If you want to do it on your own and you love planning, that's awesome. I want you to follow some simple steps that I've laid out here. Hopefully that will help you as you are putting together such a large, complex trip. If you decide to plan on your own, some bonus tips for success would be keeping the group communication in a shared Google Doc or possibly a WhatsApp group message or a text message group chat. Or the Google Docs can come in real handy when it comes time for itinerary building and making sure everybody knows what their confirmation numbers are and what time you're arriving, letting everyone be informed without it getting too clogged up. Going into a group trip, before you ever make a deposit, you really need to be upfront with each party that's paying a portion of their trip. Be upfront about how much it's going to cost and set those expectations. A lot of times, especially people who don't travel as much, they are booking their hotel room and their flights and they're feeling great about it, but they are forgetting, oh, we're going to do some activities there. Oh, well, maybe need ground transportation when we're there, like a taxi or a planned transfer. Maybe we'll need travel insurance, meals while we're there, souvenirs. So all of that tends to add up. Just be really upfront with everyone who's going as to what you would estimate their trip cost to be with all of those things added in. Another tip I would recommend is when it comes to packing, you've got all of your stuff done, but now it's time to pack and you're ready to go on your trip. Be sure that everyone has their essentials, such as medications, traveling abroad. Always important to have any type of medication that you would absolutely need, especially prescriptions, to have those and enough of before you depart. Comfortable shoes, and I would extend that to comfortable socks as well, and to make sure that you're really taking care of the older people in your party and the younger folks in your party too. And as we wrap up this multi-gen travel episode, I want to touch on some of my recommended multi-gen travel destinations and destinations that I think would be a great fit to include the entire family. I'll start out by saying cruises. This is a typical first multi-gen trip mode of travel, if you will, just because everyone has their own personal space. You have built-in activities. It's easy to get around. Everyone knows the price up front. It's very clear. There's entertainment for all ages, but you can still be together. It's a great option. I'm not a big cruiser, but I can see the benefit and the value for an extended family wanting to take a cruise together. I would say the next easiest option would be for your extended family to travel to an all-inclusive destination for a lot of the very same reasons. It's less moving around as far as, on the boat, off the boat, on the boat, off the boat, upstairs, downstairs, elevator kind of situation. But you do have all of the activities, amenities, a wide range for every age, and you don't have to worry about meals, cooking, grocery shopping. It's so easy for everyone to tag along on this one. And this is one where I see a lot in my planning services that the cousins and the aunts and uncles and your neighbor, all these other people want to come along too when you hear what kind of trip you're taking. So that one's a super easy one to plan and a great way to kind of dip your toes into multi-gen travel. National parks, some domestic travel, especially if it doesn't involve a flight. This can be a great way to slide into bringing along the whole family. With the world of Airbnb, there are so many options of great places to stay where your family can be comfortable and have really unique amenities like hot tubs and pools and saunas right there and feel like you're kind of at a home away from home. But it also gives the opportunity if you wanted to have these domestic bucket list type trips. Yellowstone National Park, Alaska. I do a ton of Alaska planning for multi-gen trips because it just seems like a lot of people want to go to Alaska but don't make it there until they get into retirement age. So unfortunately, some of that gets to be really hard, like all these activities and strenuous hikes, and it's just a long trip for a lot of folks, especially if you're on the East Coast. So I see a lot of multi-gen travel wanting to go to Alaska, whether that is Alaska cruise with a pre-stay or a post-stay in an Alaskan port. But I also have a lot of planning clients with a land only, where you're driving through Alaska or either taking a group tour, a private tour through the tundra, through the inner Alaska. Typically, those stays are with hotels and lodges and things. You can do Airbnb. I Airbnbs are tough because I've personally had Airbnbs that cancel on me, and then you might be a month out of your trip and have to scramble and find a place to stay. So if I'm going too far from home, as much as I love Airbnb, I do tend to stay in some sort of hotel or lodge. Now, we're going a little bit more abroad here to some European cities, London, Paris, for food and history and culture. Lisbon, Portugal is also another great one. It just gets a little bit harder. Grandparents, it has to be the right set of extended family to make the long trip over if you're coming from the U.S. and, a lot of walking. So you have to have everybody in check of what the expectations would be for the mobility portion. There are so many great places for your entire family to go. Maybe it's I want to say because they're important too. Maybe it's a local or close by beach that everybody goes and stays in the same house together, and that's your trip. But if that's going well for you and you all want to stretch your boundaries a little bit and have some really new experiences with your extended family, some of the destinations I mentioned are great options for that. With the right planning and expectation set and involvement from every person that is a decision maker on that trip, it can be such an enjoyable experience and so memorable for your kids, for you as parents, and for your parents, grandparents. So many great memories to be made. Don't let the stress of planning hold you back from this. I'm so happy to get on a Zoom call with you and work through that. That does not obligate you to hire me for my services or work with me in any way. The Zoom call is completely complimentary. I would love to assist your family in one of these epic multi-gen trips. So just to recap our 5 tips: choose your accommodations wisely, keeping everybody in mind, balance your group and your solo time so that nobody burns out on the company they keep. Consider mobility and accessibility when it comes to where you're staying, activities you're doing, transportation that you'll need to take, and including walkable distances that you may need to, especially in those European cities. Simplify your meal times. Consider an option such as a villa or a homestay so that you can prepare some simple meals at home and not dine every meal at a restaurant. And if you're making those or dining in a restaurant, make sure to make those reservations in advance. And then finally, if you want some assistance, want to take that off your plate, let an expert handle the details. Hire a travel advisor that specializes in the area that you want to visit to really make that so simple, so that your family can get traveling and seeing new places together. I know I mentioned the types of trips that are really simple, or not really simple, but from simple to complex for multi-gen, but I didn't mention specific destinations, and I want to make sure I do that. Some of my favorite destinations were Alaska, like I mentioned, but also Hawaii, because there's so much for everyone, especially if you're visiting an island like Maui. Turks and Caicos is a great all-inclusive destination, or you can rent a villa or an Airbnb in this destination with great water, laid-back vibes for the whole family. Mexico, Cancun, Tulum, all of these are going to be great destinations if you want to go the all-inclusive route also. Then I want to move to Central America. Belize and Costa Rica are going to offer so much for anyone tagging along on your trip, from grandparents to the toddlers. So much nature. You can mix it with jungle or beach, move around in multiple destinations inside of Costa Rica and Belize, or you can stay in one spot and see all that there is to see in those areas. Costa Rica and Belize and Alaska, they may be your more adventurous destinations if you have maybe younger grandparents or young at heart grandparents that want to be a little more active in their vacation. Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Multigen Travel. Just remember to please follow the podcast and leave me a review. It's going to help others to know what this podcast is about. If you found it helpful, I would love a 5-star review. Don't forget you can join my private Facebook group for travel tips, planning support. You'll find my calendar link there on how to get on my Zoom calendar. It's a really fun group. I do giveaways frequently. There's a lot of destination insight, and it's super duper fun. So we'd love to have you there. And if you would like to have help planning your next family vacation or multi-gen family vacation, feel free to contact me for custom itineraries, and I will link that in the show notes as well. Until then, wonder wisely. Thanks for joining another episode of WonderWise. I hope you're feeling inspired to plan your family's next unforgettable adventure. Join the community in my private travel Facebook group, linked in the show notes, for more travel tips and ideas. If you'd like a customized plan for your next vacation, fill out the form in the show notes to get started. Until next time, wonder wisely.